All right, guys, the Utah Jazz get an ugly win against the Phoenix Suns. This is the Utah Jazz postgame show on the Hoops Nerd channel. And SLC Dunk. Guys, that was about as tough a game to watch as I've ever seen. Shout out to Amar, who had the stat on Twitter. I believe 23 turnovers to 19 assists for the Jazz. That's awful. That is absolutely terrible. And it wasn't just one single player. I know Mike Conley had another rough night tonight, but a lot of that was officiating where he gets like he just couldn't get a rhythm in the game. He's getting called for every little touch foul and he gets pulled out. Something that really sometimes I'm not the biggest fan of with Quinn is just auto pulling players at certain foul numbers. Like you get 2 fouls at this minute mark and you're out. And sometimes that's fine. But sometimes what that does is it takes a player out and they can't ever find a rhythm. And so that's what happened to Mike Conley a little tonight, and the shot's just not falling yet. Guess what, guys? It will. If you're worried about Conley, then, I don't know what to tell you. He's really good. He didn't forget how to shoot basketballs. It's just a slump. It happens sometimes. That's one thing that's funny to me is like when a season starts and it's like game 4, is it any different if it's like game 50 through 54 and Conley was in a slump? It happens. Guess what? Other players will go on slumps. It's part of the game. He'll be fine. And we learned in Sacramento that when he shoots it really well, the Jazz are just electric. Now, tonight, you've got to give a lot of credit to the Suns. And it was the first game against Ricky Rubio and the Jazz, and you could tell Ricky wanted it, and he played really well for Phoenix. Tonight, Ricky Rubio... 4 for 9 from the field, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. He had nearly a triple-double. Ricky was really solid, and he did Ricky things. One thing I've always said about Ricky Rubio, and I know in this channel we argue and we say very civil things, but what Ricky Rubio gives you is a floor. He makes your team better, but he also puts a ceiling on your team. You are only going to be this good when he's running the show. So what the Suns need, who have been just really terrible for a few years, they need a higher floor. They need their floor to be higher than like the 3rd worst team in the league. They need to be like an 8th seed contender. And Ricky Rubio is a player that can do that for you. And it's nice to see him flourishing already for the Suns. It's not surprising. He did the same thing with Utah. When Ricky Rubio's playing well, he makes you a really good team. And his ability to make other people better, his calming influence, his confidence in his abilities, and all these things make everyone else better. But at the same time, just like it was with Utah and why they moved on, is that he also gives you a ceiling. The Jazz are at a different place than the Suns are. The Suns are trying to become a playoff contender. The Jazz are trying to be a finals contender. And so you have to move on from the guy that makes you a floor to a guy that gives you a higher ceiling. And the Suns need a higher floor from having no floor at all, if that makes sense. All right, so for Utah, just terrible, really awful. Mike Conley, foul trouble, couldn't hit a shot. 23 turnovers to 19 assists. Shout out to Amar. Rough stuff, hard to overcome, and somehow the Jazz were able to do it. And really what it comes down to is talent. In the offseason, the Jazz signed Bojan Bogdanovic, 29 points tonight. He is an absolute assassin. He's better than anyone predicted, although I will say this, I've been watching this guy for a long time. I honestly, when I found out on free agency day that he was coming to the Jazz, I just started jumping up and down. It's because I knew nights like this were coming, where Bogdanovic just hits shots. Sometimes that's the difference in the NBA. You just need the guys that can make shots, and he makes them. He can shoot, and the great thing about Bogdanovic is he can drive and score. He's great in transition, and he's even a pretty good passer too, we've found. So perfect Quinn Snyder player, and just a high-level player that will play good for anybody, helps anybody win. And so tonight, when everyone struggled, Donovan had his first low efficiency night, at least from the field, although Donovan 37% from 3 tonight, solid. And Bojan Bogdanovic was just great. 4 for 8 from 3, 8 for 13 from the field, 9 for 9 from the free throw line. And he did have 5 turnovers, but his shooting and scoring and his spacing just changes everything. The other player that two other players that deserve accolades is one, Royce O'Neal. Royce O'Neal tonight played 31 minutes, had 7 points, and he was a plus 10 for the game. The guy's defense is fantastic. He is a game changer. and he is a big reason this team is going to continue to have one of the best defenses in the league. Royce is strong. He can switch and guard anyone, and including in a pinch, he can guard a center because he's so strong. And tonight it showed. You'd put him on Booker at the end of the game, and he caused him to miss. Fantastic. I may be wrong. Let me know in the comments, but I believe he had that last shot, that last guard against Booker, and Booker missed. That's big time stuff. That's as important as anything. And then the other player that was just massive was Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert shot 11 for 12 from the free throw line tonight. They needed every single one of those free throws to win this game. He also had that big time. I mean, he had that block at the end of the game and then got fouled and shoots free throws at the end. That's like a 5-point swing. That's the game. Rudy Gobert changes games. And I know there are times where it looks a little awkward and you wish he could shoot. It doesn't matter. Rudy Gobert wins you games and he opens up the lane for everyone else. His defense is absolutely phenomenal. And we're seeing Rudy Gobert do what we needed him to. The Jazz bet on Rudy Gobert to be able to keep the defense level up when Derek Favors and Ricky Rubio left, and he's absolutely done that, and it's why the Jazz are winning games. Guys, big time win for the Jazz. Good teams find ways to win ugly games. It's just what happens, and they did that tonight. A win is a win, and a subscribe is a subscribe, so make sure you do it. Like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you rate and review on SLC Dunk Podcast Network, and I will talk to you later.